Today, let us look at some most popular devices used in protecting the power systems. The three names are in front of you: switch fuse and circuit breakers. There are many more, of course. Fuse is the simplest one. You see it around you in homes also. Switches also, at least the elementary ones, are seen around you all the time. Circuit breakers, probably not. What is a switch? A switch is a device, you can read it yourself, is a device that can be used to open or close a certain path or more than one path. So it completely stops the flow of current or completely allows the flow of current. Binary operation. What you see is a single pole double throw switch because input is only one while the output positions are two. Switches can be mechanical as well as electromechanical or electrical. Same thing shown again, but now the switch position is different from what it was in the previous slide. There is a wide variety of switches. I was telling you already. This is the left diagram shows single pole, single throw switch. The output position is one and input of course is one. This switch is either open or closed. This is the one we see very commonly around us. It is also known as on-off switch. These are mechanically or rather manually operated devices generally, although it's possible to make them electronically operable as well. Single pole double throw switch schematically is shown here. It closes or opens only one circuit path. There is a moving arm that is used. Here we have got double pole, double throw. Sorry, double pole, single throw situation. Two inputs, but each input can take only one output position. It's almost self-explanatory if you read this all carefully. And then we have got double pole, double throw case, which is also a logical extension of what we have done in the previous slides. Okay. Switches can be classified also as normally closed or normally open types, NO and NC. This probably would apply to all the switches we have looked at in the previous slides. There's a lot of other ways of classifying them: toggle, sliding, rotary, pushing, push button type. These are all mechanical ways of achieving the same thing. All are popular. Symbols are also shown here, one in the rightmost column. Toggle is probably the most familiar one. Fine. Sliding is also possible. Instead of toggling, rotating is also possible. Okay. Pushing, or rather using a push button, is also possible. So all this is shown in the PPT. Now, what is a circuit breaker and what is a fuse? These are two additional protection devices. Protection devices protect you and your equipment from electrical damage. Fuse is the simplest one. If the current flowing through it exceeds a certain value, it simply melts and creates an open circuit. You have to replace it. Circuit breakers are the concept of fuse but applied on very high current, or rather high current applications. Fuses operate at low currents. Circuit breakers operate at reasonably high currents also. There's a lot of detail in terms of mechanical construction because heat generated is quite large in circuit breakers. It has to be dissipated using oil, etc., etc. Fuse is the least expensive circuit protection device. It's a metallic component which is placed within an electrical circuit to monitor the current that passes through the circuit. Okay. And the rest of the operation is clear enough, I'm sure. More details on kind of fuses that you get from market. Okay. I'm sure you have seen many of these varieties in real life. Fuses have ratings, of course. How much maximum current a fuse can handle is generally written on it, or at least is written in the data sheet. Fast acting and slow acting fuses are there. Within about 1 second, if you see the blowing out, then it is a fast acting switch. Anything above that will be called slow acting switch. Circuit breaker. It is in fact slightly more complicated than switch or fuse. It is kind of a combo of the two. It's a switch and a fuse that is not permanently destroyed. Basically, circuit breaker breaks the circuit if the current is too large, and if the current comes back to safe value, the path is restored, which is not possible with the fuse. Again, we don't have time to go through detailed construction of any of these components, but functionality is what I'm trying to bring to your attention. Symbols are different for fuse and circuit breaker. More detail on circuit breaker. These also can be normally connected or normally open type. They circuit breakers normally work on the principle of sensing the temperature. If temperature goes beyond a certain value, the circuit is broken. Breakers. Other kinds are magnetic type, etc. In fact, it requires about 2 lectures to discuss circuit breakers, at least 2 lectures to discuss circuit breakers in detail. We don't have time like that. The magnetic circuit breaker functionality is explained here. I think you can easily understand it by reading it carefully. More conceptual detail on magnetic circuit breakers. And go through it. So summary is here once again. Switchage, fuseage, and circuit breakers. Switch is a mechanical device which is used to open and close electrical circuits or electrical paths. Circuit breakers are indestructible fuses. That means nothing is destroyed permanently. You don't have to replace a circuit breaker. It restores the path once the current has come back to normal values. Okay. And switches are simple. They are generally manually controlled. Besides these, there are relays also, which actually are low current operating devices. They also do switching from one path to another, depending on the situation that you are handling. Another PPT. Oh, 1 minute. Let me. Another good PPT on the same topic is this one. We will quickly rush through it also. Protection, I guess I have told you this already. Protection is the art and science, or art or science, of continuously monitoring the power system, detecting the presence of a fault, and initiating the correct tripping of the circuit breaker or of the protection device. These are the objectives that we normally try to keep in mind. Limit the extent and duration of service interruption. Obviously, you want to minimize the service interruption to the customer when there is a failure. You can repair the failure later. Important thing is to restore the service as soon as possible. And if there's a human error, that also can be investigated later. First thing is to restore the service. And there may be adverse events beyond anyone's control. That also has to be studied later. First thing is to try to restore the service. And of course, to minimize damage to the system components. And of course, most important, prevent injury to human beings in all possible scenarios. These are the objectives for designing a good power system protection. There are protection schemes worked out. This is a very complicated topic. We don't have time. I'm giving you a very brief introduction to the topic. So at least feel for these words. Monitoring is a must before you take action. So a lot of work is done in monitoring the vital parameters of the power system. And any abnormality is called a fault. And then you take action. We try to automate things, but there is always room left for manual intervention. Power system construction, I think we have seen it several times, so I will not describe each and everything in detail. You know that generation, transmission, and distribution are the three primary components, conceptually speaking. And within each, there is a large variety of components. And each one has to be thought of when you are designing a good protection system. Protection of generators is as important as protection of transmission lines. And of course, protection of the various components in the distribution network is also equally vital. Some of the features that we strive for in designing protection for power systems. Types of faults, I guess we have already seen them in previous lectures, but good to see that they are mentioned here also. Short circuit faults, open circuit faults. Each can be three-phase, two-phase, single-phase, and each can be symmetric or unsymmetric type. And complex faults, of course, is a very different thing. It can include a lot of things which are not easy to diagnose and repair. Abnormalities are not necessarily the same as faults. But a good protection system keeps monitoring for abnormalities as well. Power swings, power being generated swinging too much from one value to another, and so on. Excessive operating temperature, real power, that is the P, not Q, not being sufficiently large, frequency being lower than what you want, too much lower than what you want, and so on. These are not faults, these are abnormalities. Okay. Over frequency also, oil leakage, etc., etc. There's a large list here. In fact, this list is not complete, I'm sure. There is a lot more that could have been mentioned here in terms of abnormalities in a power system. Again, these diagrams I think we have seen already in a previous lecture, but good to see them again here. Three-phase to ground, three-phase symmetrical fault, two-phase fault, two-phase to ground, okay, single phase to ground fault, etc., etc. Series or open fault, shunt or closed faults, or shunt or short circuit faults rather. This is all done in a previous lecture as well. This is the statistical information about which kind of fault occurs in approximately what percentage in real life. This is real life experience captured in percentage. Short circuit fault causes are here. Insulation breakdown, insulation on the conductor, I mean, or insulation on the windings. Then there will be short circuit. Birds and animals can do short circuits. If you are digging the ground, you may accidentally cause short circuit in the underground cables. Poles may collapse because of wind, etc. Conductors breaking will fall on other conductors, and it is possible that short circuits will be created. A vehicle may, drive into the conductors because of an accident. Wind brings debris, and that debris might short circuit some of the cables. And of course, human error is always possible. Short circuit fault obviously will create large currents. Which cannot be allowed to flow for more than a very small number of seconds, maybe even less than a second. Protection mechanism has to kick in within that period to prevent serious damage to equipment. Arc supports are another story. Short circuits can create arcs, which may start fires. So this PPT is essentially talking a lot about what can happen. Hopefully not everything will happen. Okay, the protection mechanism has to do these kind of things. Is the load normal or is it far from normal? Transient behavior is another thing. It is the steady state load that we are talking about in the first bullet. Protection mechanisms are not only one, but there can be several, and they need to be coordinated with each other. depending on the nature of the abnormality or fault. The response should be fast enough to prevent permanent or serious damage. No unprotected zones or unprotected areas in the power system should be there. Everything should be looked at when designing protection. Reliability and availability, of course. If there is incorrect operation by the operators, it should not lead to catastrophe. There should be built-in security against human errors as much as possible. And should be affordable economically. It should not be costing too much money as well. Now, I will not go into each and every component in detail as far as the protection is concerned, but at least be aware that details are around. And these are some of the component names in a protection system: relay, circuit breaker, current transformer, voltage transformer, and so on. Schematic diagram, actually pictorial diagram of a typical protection system. What is a relay? Yeah, good thing. I've been telling you, but let's read it carefully. It is a device which receives a signal from the power system and determines whether conditions are normal or abnormal. This is called measuring function. It is going to relay back the information to the actual system where something will be done. It's a monitoring device, really. It does not operate at high currents. If an abnormal condition is present, relay signals circuit breaker to do something. Relay doesn't do anything. It simply tells circuit breaker that things are not what they should be and something should be done. Okay. So basically control part is transferred to low current side in the protection system. Decision making is done at on lower current part of the circuit, and decision is conveyed, or at least the recommendation is conveyed to the circuit breaker, which will decide to break the circuit. And we isolate only the faulty part. We don't want to close the entire system, of course. Okay. Typical what should I say? The flow of signal in a protection system. Relay characteristics, speed should be quite small. I mean, quite fast rather. The response time should be small. Under normal conditions, the circuit breaker should not be affected by the relay. All these are the requirements that designers have to look at before they design a relay. If relays don't do their job, properly, this is what you get. A lot of damage to the system. This is the aftermath of something that happened because of a relay which did not work. Fires. More examples. I'm not trying to scare you, but this is real life. Things, accidents do happen. It's a very serious job to design protection equipment or protection circuits or protection components for power systems. Again, there is a lot of variety of relays. Probably you don't have to go through each and everything carefully, but I'm sure you can read it yourself. Various ways of classifying them. Okay, various definitions related to all this are summarized here. You may not connect to everything, but at least a few of them are known to you, I'm sure. NO and NC for sure. Types of relays. Okay, 3 different varieties. And there are others also. This 3 will tell you most of the names of relays or types of relays rather. Functionality is different in each case, but the objective is the same. Now, each and every type of relay is described in the document in fair amount of detail. I don't think that for the sake of this course, you have to be aware of details of each and every type of relay. But why relay is important in power system protection is what you need to be aware of. You can safely ignore mathematics as far as this course is concerned. But let me go through it for sure. This could be a very good BTP actually to design and build a relay with certain design requirements given to you. Obviously, digital relays are around for benefits like this. Numerical relays. This could be a good topic for BTP next year, if some of you are interested. Okay, so I don't want to go through all this comparison in detail. It's available for you to read. A lot more detail that probably you don't need. Now, fault detection methods. Again, there's a large variety of methods. And again, there is no time to go through each and every one in detail. But be aware that detecting a fault can be done in more than one ways. Do you sense current? Do you sense voltage? Do you sense difference in current? Or do you sense difference in voltage? Or do you sense something else? Open questions. Do you sense impedance, magnitude, or angle? It all depends on what kind of fault you are trying to detect. Okay. So that closes this document. 1 minute. No, this probably is what we have looked at in the past, but we were unable to go to the end of it. Let me quickly see if there is something new here. This was prepared by Idaho Power, which is the power producing company in the state of Idaho in the US. It is meant for practicing engineers, but still it is worth having a look at. How to protect the generator, how to protect the transmission lines, how to protect the transformers. All those things have been covered in this document in sufficient detail. I'm trying to get to the point where we had stopped last time. Yeah, somewhere here. Transmission lines, as you know, can be short, can be medium, or can be long. And they can be low voltage, medium voltage, and high voltage. Based on this, protection mechanisms will be different. Insulators are used to mechanically connect transmission lines to poles so that the high voltage is not transmitted to the pole itself or to the various things on the poles. Again, faults are being mentioned here also. Why they are there is mentioned. Trees, lightning, animals, birds, weather affected faults, and so on. They, you can see on the right hand side the result of all this. Transmission lines have collapsed in the picture on the right hand side. You need to protect against all this. The supply should be stopped to the transmission line right away if this happens. And that has to be done automatically. So from the previous substation, from where this transmission line is being fed, the action will have to be initiated. This is the case of a ice storm and its result on the transmission line, its effect on the transmission lines. Okay, we know these faults already, line to ground, etc. Overcurrent, distance, and so on. Circuit breakers in the station will act if there is a large amount of current being drawn by the transmission line, more than what you expect. It will shut down the supply to the transmission line for sure. Okay, there's a lot of detail here, but try to get the gist of it at least. Protection is a lifetime carrier for power system engineers. Distance protection, you can see here. We measure the impedance of a line using Ohm's law, of course. When a fault occurs, that impedance gets affected seriously. And you know that there is a fault or abnormality somewhere. So you take action. You don't measure current or voltage, you measure impedance on the line. I wish we had more time to go through each and everything carefully, but fine. At least you're getting the overview of how to protect transmission lines. Okay. Good talk. Shunt capacitors are used in the power system a lot to raise the voltage on a bus or on a line to a higher value. So this basically helps in increasing the voltage if it has gone down too much. Rather than using transformer all the time, this method can also be used. And series capacitors are used to improve the power factor by cancelling the inductive reactance of a line. Now, protection using capacitors is possible. Okay, at least be aware of the name, that capacitor protection is possible. Capacitors are connected in series and parallel combination to obtain the desired total capacitance, which will help in maintaining a desired voltage level.